Peace, peace and love, everybody. I wanted to look today into a very curious aspect of the boxing community right now that I do not hear any particular dialogue happening around, and that is that of the Tyson Fury versus the Usyk fight. There's absolutely no dialogue happening right now surrounding this fight, and it's only 4 weeks away. The spectacle is set to take place for February 17th, I believe. And regardless of the matter, there is no hoopla, no thunderings, no murmurs in the wind, no buzzing excitement, no inquiries, nothing. What is going on? Like, for real. This is for the undisputed heavyweight championship title, the coveted title, one face, one name of the heavyweight division. And there are no rumblings, no storms created, nothing surrounding this fight. It's very, very, very curious to me. Furthermore, I wanted to see what this is saying just about the division. And I wanted to break down these matters a little bit for us to discuss and just think about. Let's be contemplative about this. What does it say about these two men who sit at the top of the heavyweight division? Furthermore, what is it saying about the likes of Anthony Joshua and the still curious mystique surrounding that of Deontay Wilder? There's a very, very, very big question that I want us to digest and try to be as pensive about as possible, because it should be thought about in my belief. So we've known that the Usyk Fury bout was bound to take place. There was anticipation for it, even despite the delays throughout the past year or two, even despite the detour that Tyson Fury took to fight Ngannou, all the trappings and in between occurrences that happened. We still expected for this fight to occur because, it's for undisputed. They're the only two men in the division that hold the belts. And, we expected this to commence. So now the date is set, February 17th. And even with the anticipation, or at least the expectancy that we've had in the buildup leading to the announcement of the fight, there was no real fuss, or emotional stir happening among the general boxing community. It just hasn't been anything that really seemed to have ignited the palate or the real immediate interest in the bout. And it's the kickoff that they had, the press conference was lackluster. That didn't spark any upheaval among boxing fans. It's curious. And it makes me wonder, about the numbers that it's going to do when the bout does commence. Is it going to do significant pay-per-view numbers? I highly doubt that, at least at this point, that it'll do anywhere near what Joshua Ngannou is going to do. I doubt that it does. So this is a sad outlook, pretty much, for the only two belt holders in the weight class. It's a very sad outlook and viewpoint, and a vantage point. They have no vantage point from this perspective. They just don't, even though they sit at the top. So it makes me think that once one does solidify and consolidate the belts to become the one face, one name of the division, will anybody here? For real, is anybody going to care once those belts are consolidated outside of the prospect? Now, I want you to think about this. Is anybody going to care about that one that claims the one face, one name of the division between them, the undisputed, will anyone care outside of the prospect that that person, whoever it may be, Usyk or Fury, will anyone care outside of the fact that that will be the person to face AJ? Keep it real. That's a real question. Because if they themselves, Usyk and Fury, have no generative dialogue about them, I mean, Fury definitely does more because, because of his antics. He'll do something like, outlandish, or he's just known for that type of flair. That's kind of, his tagline attributed to him, his characteristic that we are familiar with. So he's definitely a lot more generative than of dialogue than Usyk. But even still, Tyson Fury's relation has always been, and significance has always been attributed to the likes of fighting the trilogy with Wilder, and also the possibility and prospect that lingered between he and AJ. That's where his relevancy was. He had and outside of, accomplishing the win over Klitschko during that time. But that was how many years ago? So his only means and claim to relevancy is through Deontay Wilder and Anthony Joshua. Outside of that, which is to my point, his significance is really lacking, if we're being honest. And Usyk, so if that's the case for Fury, then Usyk ain't got nobody goddamn, on a real mass level, peeping into his back window. Because who cares about, you know what I'm saying? All credit to him for being a great, fantastic fighter. He's a wonderful, phenomenal boxer, Usyk. But I'm talking about just generative and speculative interest in him. We know that he's talented. I do, at least. And I can't say that I would find too many people who do not agree with Usyk's ability. And he managed to beat Joshua 2 times, even though if they fought a third time, I don't think that he would be successful. But yes, he managed to accomplish that against Joshua, and it was a wonderful feat on his part. That has escalated him to this level to face Fury for the undisputed. But personality-wise, characteristically, he doesn't really garner any interest in him. And, it's something to be definitely thought about as we look at the heavyweight division and we discuss the future and relevancy of these 4 kings of the division. So, yeah, that's what it makes me think. Who will care when this person claims the undisputed outside of, the possibility of facing the Joshua? I don't think they have any relevance outside of that, and we must look at this for what it is. So in this light and from this standpoint, that means that Joshua, in all reality, is still the face of heavyweight boxing, if that's the case. It just is what it is. We have some super contenders and some super fighters that we know in the heavyweight division and respect greatly. Your Joseph Parkers, your Zhilei Zhangs, and your Dubois, and your Joe Joyce is still a really good fighter. And you got, Hergovic and so many other people in the division who are really talented and who we can't wait to see how they align in their next fights and in the future. But they are not him. They are not that dude. They are not him being AJ. And they are not generating anywhere near a fraction of what that man generates, just in interest alone. Okay? So when we talk about interest, that's one level. But with interest, there comes what Joshua is absolutely phenomenally known for, which is his sellout power. Okay? None of those guys aforementioned are selling out arenas, fighting in front of 80K plus people in attendance. You know what I'm saying? With all the hate that Josh receives, it does nothing to diminish, subdue, or abate his influence, appeal, and sellout power in the boxing world. It just is what it is. You know what I'm saying? Good, bad, or indifferent, he has generative power. And his name is on the lips of everybody in the boxing community, whether you agree with his moves, whether you like his posture, whether you agree with his resume, whether you think he's the best of the division or not. You're talking about him, and it is keeping him at the forefront in the number one spot and position of the heavyweight division. It just is. And either way, you're all tuning in to watch his fall, his defeat, or his climb, or his rise. It just is what it is with that. Now, regarding Deontay Wilder, I also put Wilder in this light or in this category because, as I said, these are the two. This is what I want to discuss. The two of the division that of significance, of importance. Deontay Wilder, even with his recent upset defeat to Joseph Parker, I believe he can still amass a substantial amount of interest in a mega fight with Anthony Joshua and with whomever he decides to fight next. You know what I'm saying? Of course, he and Joshua has always been the mega heavyweight fight of the division. That's why I aligned those two names together, because that has always been the heavyweight fight in the division. Fury Wilder was definitely of mega interest, and that's why the trilogy was so spectacular. The history of all of that, the build up, and it was a wonderful matchup between them. But the heavyweight fight has always been Joshua Wilder, always. So I would love to see that in the future at some point, as I mentioned in my previous commentary. So that's on the table. I believe he can still, generate the interest for that fight. But also with anyone, as I said, he intends to fight moving forward, people will be interested in seeing what he does. Can he recover? Has he improved on his training? Will he throw punches, or will it be a repeat of what we saw in the spectacle against Joseph Parker? Will he be sound? Can we see a change in him? Is there still room for improvement within Deontay Wilder, even though he's now 38? There are a lot of questions and interests and perspectives concerning him, but all the while it all serves the interest, the generative dialogue, the curiosity surrounding his mystique and what he can do and what he still has left, which is important for a fighter. You want people to inquire. You want people interested in what you have going on, good, bad, or indifferent. So he, with no question at all, he engenders way more of an interest than that of Usyk, that's for sure. And that's just on a fundamental basis, of interest and inquiry from the boxing community. So whether it's from supporters or critics, discourse will be had about him, and people will be engrossed in it. They'll be involved in it. They'll be curious about his moves. If he fumbles, if he succeeds, just like Joshua, no different. So he holds a very, very heavy seat of prominence in the division still, even with a defeat to Joseph Parker, because he is just that significant and he is just that powerful. We can't forget that, despite the lackluster performance, he is still a man who packs a hell of a punch. And it would be wonderful to see that on display, because we all know he has it. It wasn't put to use in his last fight, but we know it's there. And when he steps back in the ring, if he ever decides to do that, that is still what people will be anticipating, period, hands down. So this makes for an interesting conversation among the heavyweight divisions, because the two men among the four kings of the division who have taken losses and don't hold the beloved, quote unquote, undefeated title or the coveted undefeated crown, the very two men who have suffered the losses are the very men who are the foundation, the heartbeat, meaning, and breadth of the heavyweight division, the ones that took losses. So it makes one think about the significance of the undefeated title, which I have a video coming on really shortly that I'll be discussing, just this whole idea and perspective surrounding this mystifying concept of the O. I'm gonna talk about that. But yes, these are the very two men of the division, are the most prominent men of the division, and they have taken losses. So it's an interesting dynamic going on here, here and there, and even though the mainstream media has kind of been resolute on seeing the Usyk Fury fight, and also being resolute that Usyk and Fury be cited as the best of the division. Real talk, the fans say otherwise because their attention isn't fixed on them. It's just not. The fans are not fixed on what Fury is doing and what Usyk is doing. Their money isn't spilling over into their pay-per-view buys. Fan-led platforms and even media outlets are not hosting topics about them by the droves. It just isn't happening. So it speaks for itself, no matter what the predominant point of view is, where the fans' interest is going. And it is not to those two men. Fans are interested in Joshua. Is he going to, be able to get through his opponents in Ngannou? And when he fought Wallen, a lot of people, credited Wallen for being, on the rise for the upset, to take the upset. Same thing with Wilder. All this type of generative things, people were rushing into their TVs to see, that right hand at work with Joseph Parker. It didn't happen, but people are still, like I said, interested in what he's doing. They even interested if he's going to retire. The point is that they goddamn interested in Wilder. Okay, which makes these two men the kings of the division, hands down. I don't care what anybody says. That is undisputed. That is what's undisputed to me. So it's going to be interesting to see how the fight plays out between Usyk and Fury, because from that aspect, my attention is completely on Joshua, because he's next up to fight that person. And, the relevancy of whoever claims the coveted crown and title and all the belts is really in question at this point. It definitely is. And what the future holds, for the outcome of whoever fights Joshua is going to be interesting in itself, but it definitely doesn't take away from the fact that Joshua is the face of boxing, and also that Deontay Wilder is also the face of heavyweight boxing. Real talk when we look at it. So I just wanted to put that on the table. Hopefully you guys can, contemplate it, think on it, resonate with it, add your thoughts. But that's where I'm at with it. Till next time, peace.